Another episode of Scales 13. Teofilo, I don't remember the rest of your name, bro. Well, I don't know how to pronounce the rest of your name. I'm not gonna butcher it on the internet. But you asked for a video on the cost of everything for setting up a Yellow Ackie Monitor. I'm gonna give you the cost of everything I did, and I'm gonna talk about some of my experience when I bought some of this stuff because I made some mistakes here and there. You know what I mean? Things don't always go perfect, but either way, I'm going to give you the pricing of everything that you need for the animal, including the animal. So this video is going to talk about all those things. So here we go. First thing, the enclosure. This is a Zeki, or Zilski. I forgot how to pronounce it, but it's an enclosure. Yeah, I think it's a Zeki. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's a weird name. Anyway, I bought this enclosure for $290 off of eBay. Brand new. You screw everything together. Simple box layout, just like any other ceiling enclosures. I was really happy with everything as far as it being obviously a plastic enclosure versus a wood one. It's not going to break down. Holds humidity well when I close the vents. Nice sliding glass doors. The tracks work really good. All I gotta do is just clean them out, and it's not shaky or anything. Nice and solid. My only complaint is the fixtures that it came with sucked. One came in broken, the other one was broken, so I had to replace those. So as far as that goes, that's the one thing I wasn't thrilled with about this enclosure. But other than that, I think it was really cool. Let's see. So that's the enclosure. Second thing. Well, let's go into what I was talking about before, the lights. The lights aren't that expensive, guys. I would suggest a basking light and a UVB, one of these tube strip bulbs. I forgot what you call these things. But yeah, the fixtures are not expensive. Fixtures, the main thing is for the heat lights. Anything that emits heat, you want it to be ceramic, so that way there's not a fire hazard. And as far as the UVB light goes, just get something, let's say maybe like a light that's used for, I don't know, let's see, something for a humid environment, something for a greenhouse. As long as it can fit the bulb properly and it's the proper wattage, where that can also be a fire hazard. As long as it matches, it's perfectly fine. But yeah, so I'm gonna just show you the bulbs real quick. This is so for the fixtures, make sure that your fixtures just match whatever bulbs you're going to use. So, sorry guys, I'm trying to do this real quick because my phone's kind of dying. Okay, so here's the bulb that I use, 90 watt Floodlight, par 38. What I like about these is they give a nice wide beam of heat, so that way the animal doesn't burn itself like an actual reptile spotlight you get at a pet shop. So I have one of those. I also have a bulb from Arcadia. This is a D3 plus Reptile UVB Light. It's 12% UVB. This is what you need for a Yellow Ackie Monitor. Okay, so that covers those. I think the bulb was about 20 bucks, or 25, 30 with the fixture, because I bought them both at the same time. I got them from the Bio Dude, because Arcadia is a European company and they're kind of hard to find in the States. But even like a Zoo Med desert bulb would work really well too. Like I think they're called a T5. Yeah, I think a T5 would work. I'm not too versed in those, so don't quote me on that. But there's some bulbs from Zoo Med that might work just as good. They won't last as long, but they'll still give you the proper amount of UVB that you need. They might be easier for you to find if you are in the States and if you're having a hard time finding Arcadia bulbs. I just recommend them because they last a full year without needing to be replaced. And that's not just with the light going out. That's with the full output of UVB lighting. Okay, so that covers the lights. Now, as far as the substrate goes, the substrate can be very cheap. You can use play sand. It's like $4 a bag for like a 5-pound bag. 10-pound bag, actually, I think. What I used to work in pet shops, guys. I used to work in Pet Value, and I get a big discount there. Sometimes they throw me stuff for free. So I use a regular Zoom Mid, kind of like a quartz sand, a red one. I mixed that also with Zoom Mid's Repti Soil just because it already contains soil and it already contains peat moss and different things to hold moisture. That seems to work out well for me. It doesn't get too dusty, holds moisture well, and it mixed well with the sand. Those two things, I think the Repti Soil is about $15 for, I forgot how many quarts. Either way, it's very inexpensive, but I will put links to that up in this video. But you could also just use a nice organic topsoil. Make sure it doesn't have any garbage in it, like pieces of plastic, and make sure it doesn't have any type of fertilizers, because that can be very dangerous to your animal. Okay, so it's Substrate Food. Okay, guys, for people who live near pet shops and have bought insects and stuff before, this thing's an insectivore, which is the awesome thing about it. They eat a little bit more often than like leopard geckos and stuff, but they're probably going to eat about as much as an adult bearded dragon does throughout the week. It's not going to eat like 30, 40 crickets a pop, especially if you only have one. But it's going to mainly eat crickets, mealworms, superworms, dubia roaches, hornworms if they'll take them. But, you know, crickets are about 10 cents a piece. I think this canister I have here from Bugco, this giant mealworms 35 count, was, I think it was about $3, $4. So do the math. Food's very inexpensive. And let's see, the last thing that was the most expensive thing, who is not showing himself right now, is my Yellow Ackie Monitor. Now, he was $375. That is like about the most expensive cost. Yeah, it's the most expensive cost of the whole thing. It's the most expensive reptile I've ever owned. Here's the reason why he's so expensive, guys. Australia no longer exports any of its natural wildlife, which is a good thing, because the thing is, we're not harming the environment when we get these animals. Now, because of that, people put a lot of money into breeding them. People spend a lot of time into their projects with breeding these guys, and you're getting a much healthier, much more adapted to living with people. And, well, you're getting an animal that's healthier, less parasites, not coming in dehydrated. This animal is also more used to people, because from the day it was born, it's used to seeing human beings, versus growing up out in the wild and being snatched out of the wild and thrown into a smaller container. So with that being said, I think the money's really worth it. Ackie monitors are not as sensitive as a lot of other monitors, especially from like larger sizes. Like, let's just say like Savannah monitors. A lot of those that, because they're wild caught, a lot of them that come in do die. And we're just starting to learn things about how to take care of Savannah monitors now. Let's say things like, they're insectivores. We're finally figuring that out. And that too much meat and stuff will kill them. They'll get fatty liver disease. But that's a little bit besides the point. My point being is, $375 is worth it, because as long as your husbandry is correct, this animal will most likely do well and thrive. Now, as far as enclosures, now that I got everything covered, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on cost and my experience with different things. So as far as the enclosure, there's a lot of do-it-yourself videos on YouTube on how to build enclosures that are a lot bigger than this. And even though $290 was a good price for this enclosure, if you spend a little bit more money and get like a Reptile plastics, or you get a Cages custom enclosure, they cost you a little bit more, but you'll probably get better fixtures. And you can probably, you know, max it out, make it a little better than what you than what I have here. But if you do it yourself, let's just say if you're handy, you got tools, and you're old enough and safe enough to do this, if you're like 15 years old or 16 years old and you're just borrowing your dad's toolkit without permission, I don't condone that. Don't do that. You know, that's why most of this stuff here is actually for like adults. Like me, myself, I didn't start getting into this until I moved out of my parents' household. But anyway, yeah. So what I'm saying here, guys, is you can probably get a better enclosure if you spend more money, but you can probably build one either the same size or better with half that amount of money, as long as you know what you're doing, and if you get the supplies from Home Depot. I think somebody said they actually sell these plastic sheets there right next to the wood section. You can just pick your size or cut them if you need to and just screw them together. So that's pretty cool. I've never done it myself, but that's what I've heard. But yeah, guys, so that's all the cost for the Yellow Ackie Monitor. I don't see my little guy anywhere. I think he's somewhere hiding. Man, I wish he was out for this video, guys. This does kind of stink. But yeah, so yeah, it's everything you need. Food's cheap. The enclosure, yeah, so let me think. 290, 375. Let's just say you spend quite a bit on the oh yeah. Also, here's another thing, guys. Something I forgot. So food bowls are cheap, but you don't really need food bowls. Well, water bowls, actually just at least having a water bowl in there. As far as wood and decorations and stuff, there's two sides to this. Some people believe